Welcome back to the PMP Industry Insider Podcast. I'm Brett, the editor, and we're in for another edition of Insider's Rewind, looking back to the month of August and handpicking some of the most impactful moments of the show and giving them another shot. August was great. We released episodes 237 through 240 and featured some fantastic guests, including Caleb Cunningham of Justice Pest Services down in Texas, as well as Kevin and Patrick Sherrill of Sherrill Pest Control in Tennessee. So we're going to get to all of that throughout the show, but first a special thanks to those who make the PMP Industry Insider Podcast possible, starting with Coalmarch. They offer marketing services, websites, and all types of media for your business. You can visit coalmarch.com to learn more, and they're offering the first month free, and if you're interested in that deal, you can visit coalmarch.com/podcast. We also want to thank PestSure, providing insurance tailor-made for the pest and lawn industry. They understand the risks of the business, and they offer services such as workers' comp, general liability, auto, and more. PestSure.com will show you everything you need. And new for 2025 is Voice for Pest, offering voice solutions for the pest and lawn industry. They design unparalleled voice solutions for pest and lawn care professionals. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit voiceforpest.com/podcast. And don't forget peer groups, pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups will get you the info on how to get started. And if you want to hear more about the peer groups and how they help, you can go back and listen to episode 136. Now, in this episode, you're going to get a great glimpse of how they work, how they can help. So let's get started. New episodes of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast are released on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to be starting Insider's Rewind this time around with episode 237. Dan and Donnie are alone on this one, talking about turnaround tactics and fixing your team's deadline problems for good. It was funny at the beginning of this episode, something I've never heard before. Dan took the lead. I've been editing this podcast for 3 years, this past August, believe it or not. Donnie, he's always started the show, but Dan took the reins for this one, so a change-up that was unexpected came, and the guys got a kick out of it. But this particular section of the show talks about those deadlines and how important they are, the fear of conflict at work, and a brief peer group chat. Let's check it out.
I remember back when our branch was super, super small and I was running the day-to-day and I was it, right? So if Gary didn't show up, guess who was running the route that day? That would be me. And I had a bunch of other stuff that I had to get done that day. And if I had to go run a route, well, then it was happening that night. And so now, me, instead of hanging out with my kids or whatever, now I'm going to be doing work. And so this whole idea of fear of conflict because of where it might go, this is a problem because when you avoid those tough conversations and you allow things like this to slip, you're basically training people that deadlines don't mean anything. That's what you're training. Like it or not, that's what you're training. So that's the first thing, is this whole idea of fear of conflict. The
So
second one.
wait, before you go on, I have to tell you that we had somebody in our peer group who, when she met Donnie, she said that he was full of, that he's just a big bunch of hot air and everything. And she couldn't believe that he was this organized, SOP guy from the military and everything. And her company kind of really sucked. She stayed in our peer group for three years or so. And last year we sold her company for millions. She paid attention, not to Donnie, but what he's saying is absolutely.
Couldn't be me, no.
You know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, I absolutely know exactly who you're talking about. And you know what? Good for her. I mean, seriously, good for her. She's good folks, by the way. You know who he's talking about. She's good people.
Episode 237 from August 7th, Turnaround Tactics with Dan and Donnie. A lot more packed into that episode, too. You can find it all at pmpindustryinsider.com. And if you're more of a viewer, all podcasts are available on the PMP Industry Insider YouTube channel. We're moving on now to episode 238, and our first guest of the month. It was Caleb Cunningham of Justice Pest Control. A lot of peer group talk was in this episode. And Donnie asked the question, what was the big change that made the big difference? And you'll hear Caleb's answer in just a bit here, but a great episode to get in touch with what peer groups are and how they can help. Let's dive in.
Well, the underlying theme absolutely was getting outside help. And, the shift from trying to white knuckle it and do it all by myself to I joined one of y'all's peer groups, which has been absolutely instrumental in my journey so far. I'm a member of another peer group. I use Sherry pest control business coach, and meet with her often. And so all those things really help combine getting outside advice, and helping me with seeing things in a completely different light, and not trying to solve problems on my own. And none of this is new, right? It just took me a while to get there on my own. So having the help and having people that are a couple of steps ahead of me, give me advice and shine the light on, that it's okay to go up on your increase prices. You're not going to lose all your customers. I mean, there's 100 of those examples where you have it made up a certain way, and you can't make all those mistakes on your own. So trying to get the outside help was by far the biggest change that I've made.
Episode 238 with Caleb Cunningham of Justice Pest Control. We're going to move on now to episode 239. This was with Kevin and Patrick Sherrill, titled Culture, Legacy, and Leadership at Sherrill Pest Control. This is another great pest control story, one of those starting from nothing stories that I love, and this section in particular talks about that steady growth in the earlier days, but also reveals some of the challenges that come with that growth. Here we go.
Dad always had a goal of reaching, or the goal I remember, he wanted to hit $1 million. He wanted to hit $1 million in revenue. It took about 33 years to get there, just slow, steady growth. And now I had learned from him the desire to always want to learn and grow. Back in the day, maybe the audio book club or whatever, they'd mail a cassette once a month and listen to, was always listening to books. He was going to conferences and talking with Al Foster, Ray Johnson, other people in the industry. He started sharing that desire with me. So I started coming back with all these ideas from the academy and from just different people throughout the association. And I found out we ended up finding ourselves growing a company we weren't prepared to run or lead. Basically, the company had outgrown its leadership, me mainly. There's no other way to say that. It happened. That small of a company, really operational drama started to pop up. People drama started to pop up. I'm not saying we were a terrible company, but it just wasn't fun for me anymore. Had grown something that was desired to help Dad hit that goal, but I realized that we were missing some pieces, and just really had to have an honest look in the mirror to decide, man, is this really what I want? And I looked in the mirror one day, I'll never forget, just thinking I wouldn't want my kids to have my life. Now, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. Really had a good life, but I guess I knew mentally the weight that was going on from what I created at the company and wasn't prepared or able to handle it. I sure wouldn't want to put that stress on my kids. So that really opened my eyes up right then, that if I'm going to stay in it and if there's a chance for the next generation, we're going to have to build a company, the systems and processes to be able to handle the growth that will be coming, to make sure it's a business that's a blessing to our family and to the team members and their families, and not just run the owner, which it had gotten to the point that's what it was doing.
Episode 238 with Kevin and Patrick Sherrill of Sherrill Pest Control. We are up to the final episode of August called Return on Motivation, just when you thought you had enough MBA buzzwords. Dan and Donnie solo on this one. Donnie starts the section with a story of a bonus that he received when he was younger and ties that into how to get your team on board with tasks, goals, and more, and finally feeling a sense of ownership with your job.
It's almost like if you're playing a game, but you don't know where you're at in the game. I mean, I know I've used this example several times on the podcast, but it's totally true. I used to work for a power company here in Raleigh, and I was still in college. I got hired in college. And I remember one year I get like this $3,000 bonus. It's like, we hit our goals. And I'm like, oh, we had goals? I had no idea. And listen, I'm not saying I'm not grateful for that, but I remember I got the bonus and I was like, this is great.
Yeah, but how do you do it again? You don't
exactly. I had no idea that we even had goals and that we were driving to get them. And then here we are, again, so my point here is that, most people will respond to playing a game, but you've got to create it. And the way to create it is that you got to communicate what it is. You have to teach people what it is. And when I say teach people, I mean actually teach them about business, teach them what it is that you're trying to accomplish it, and not just making money. I put money akin to breathing, right? Okay, so yes, In order to live, I've got to breathe. But once I've got that one figured out, I mean, that's not the purpose of my life. And so I would say the same thing in the business. Of course, you've got to make profit. Of course, you've got to have security. Of course, you have to have all the fundamentals, but that's not the purpose of the business, right? And so articulating that very, very clearly, communicating it often, talking about the mission, talking about the values, and then more importantly, and I think this is probably the most important part, is communicating performance, both as a business and then as a team and then as an individual. And those things are hard to do. But once you're able to do that and you've got that clear and consistent communication, now all of a sudden people are starting to feel a more of a sense of ownership of performance. They're starting to feel like, hey, yeah, this is the game that I'm playing. I know what's going on. I know my place. And the people who are running the boat here know what they're doing. You know, like they trust you as an owner or as a manager or whatever, whatever role it is that you play in creating that. But you have to pay the price and put that infrastructure in place. If you don't communicate that and people don't know where they're at, well, when it comes time and, quote unquote, the game's on the line, how much extra effort are they going to do? Right? If they don't know that, oh my gosh, we're, I don't know, $1,000 from hitting our revenue goal for the month, they're going to push really, really hard because, we have this at least I think we have this innate desire to win. And so if people aren't clear on like what winning means and it's not constantly communicated to them, and again, I'm talking more than just money here. It's going to be very difficult for them to be motivated, right? It's going to be very difficult for them to understand how this all comes together.
From episode 240, return on motivation with Dan and Donnie, bringing a close to Insiders Rewind. Resources on each episode are available over at pmpindustryinsider.com, and you can also listen to full episodes and get information on peer groups. So thank you for taking the time. I'm Brett, the editor, and we'll be back in early October to do this all again and get prepped for Pest World in Orlando. See you next month.